Hello, we're continuing our reviews on the Predator series with Aliens vs. Predator Requiem, which is the sequel to the 2004 film Alien vs. Predator, which was a crossover between the Aliens series and the Predator series. So, the plot of Aliens vs. Predator Requiem is, it picks up right where Alien vs. Predator left off, where you,
Spoilers.
Yeah, at the end of Alien vs. Predator, the one Predator that was left there was a certain point in that movie where it got a face hugger on it, and at the very end of that movie, the other Predators loaded it onto their ship, and at the end you saw a baby xenomorph burst out of its chest, but basically, if you saw Alien 3 kind of establishes that if a xenomorph is incubated inside the body of a certain animal, it would take on the characteristics of that animal. Yeah. So basically this xenomorph has like those predator like mandibles or whatever you call them.
Yeah, basically it just imagine as a normal xenomorph with a combination of the predator face that goes like you know.
Yeah.
It's basically a combo. The idea of it is basically a combination of the predator and the alien all rolled into one.
Yeah, and then in the movie, basically in the beginning of the film, this predator-xenomorph hybrid, which is called the Predalien, it pretty much it attacks all the other predators on this ship, and then the ship ends up crash landing in this small town, and then this Predalien gets out along with a bunch of facehuggers that were on this Predator spaceship, and basically this one Predator gets alerted about all this, and he comes to Earth to hunt down all these xenomorphs in this small town, but the xenomorphs, along with the Predalien, are attacking all the people in the town, and basically it's a battle between this one Predator and all these aliens, and the human characters are kind of caught up in between this battle. And that's
wrong place, wrong time. Like we mentioned in the first review, just basically being caught, or when we were kind of talking about Predator a little bit, just people being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, and that's the basic plot line of Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Now, Requiem has a really bad reputation, just like the first one, but I know a lot of people who like the first one better than they like this one. Truthfully, I was watching this again, and I liked it a lot better than I remembered liking it. Like, it's still not great. It's not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I got some enjoyment out of it. Like, I appreciated how, I know in our last review, one of your criticisms for Alien vs. Predator was how it was more of just an action film and it left out the horror elements that both series have.
It tried to do horror but failed miserably because they didn't build up anything. They didn't take their time, and that's it. Like you said, it's basically just an action movie. Quick cuts, blah, 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 everything's all jarring and all over the place, and it's intense.
I think this one focuses a lot more on the horror.
I would agree. Yep.
And some of the characters I liked, some of them were kind of just two-dimensional, but I did appreciate how in this movie they just kill off a character that you think is going to live till the end. Like, they build up all these different characters, and they just kill them off like that.
Yeah.
That is one thing I kind of appreciated, and I appreciated that this one had the balls to kill children. They kill children in this.
Oh, in the most beautifully gruesome way possible, too. Not just children, but pregnant women, too.
I know, and it's...
Spoilers.
Yeah, or even, like, the hospital scene, like...
That scene's intense.
Yeah, but in the scenes in the hospital, you actually have scenes of, like, those rooms where they keep newborn babies, and it's like, you know those kids probably got eaten.
Yep.
Which is horrifying to think about.
They imply that stuff, definitely.
Yeah, because, like, for me, like, the death of a child, that's something that really gets to me, and when they focus on that in a horror film,
when it's done right, it definitely, like a stab in the chest, you know, or a dagger into the side, you know. It's definitely a tearjerker a little bit. I'm not saying it's on that level, but the implications there.
I would say it would be more of a tearjerker if you got to know like the parents of those children.
Exactly.
Since you don't really get to know them, it's not as much.
It's not as
obviously
impactful,
in real
but
life
still.
it would be like, oh my god, no, but yeah.
It's a movie, so
yeah, but even like this scene where the pregnant woman gets impregnated and those baby xenomorphs come out of her stomach.
To me, that's an icon. To me, that's like an iconic scene in this movie because it's nasty. The Pred Alien, or in the behind, if you watch the behind the scenes, they call it the Pred Alien jet, which I find really funny. But he just goes right in and goes right down.
Yeah, and it's like
no craps given, just ugh.
And like
nasty.
when I was watching the movie, even though you didn't get, I do wish they gave you more character development with those women, so you got to know who they are and feel more sorry for them. But still, seeing that though, I was putting myself in their position, like how I would feel if I was a pregnant woman and that was coming out of me. Like that must be just horrifying. And it's a scene of pure body horror, which I do consider. The first Alien movie was definitely a body horror film.
Yes.
And I do think this one, I feel like this one's more of an Alien movie than it is a Predator movie.
Yes, I would agree with that. And that, for me, that's why I kind of appreciate this movie a little more than the original, because even Predator, the original with Arnold Schwarzenegger, even that movie, like, it wasn't like Alien vs. Predator, where it was like quick cuts and tense and, you know, blah blah blah, action film style. With these movies, I appreciate when these films kind of take their time and let the atmosphere build and build the suspense. I feel at its core that's when both these movies are at their most effective, when, you know, Dutch and the group are going through the forest and you don't know where the predator is, and being isolated on a spaceship in space with this creature from outer space hunting you down one by one and killing you off. You know, those elements, along with a little bit of action spliced in, that's where I feel like the material of both these properties or concepts, I think that's when they're at their most effectiveness for audiences watching the movies, you know? And that's why I respect Alien vs. Predator Requiem rather than the other one, because Requiem actually tries to do that and respect all the elements that both these films are just so iconic for.
Yeah. Now, once again, we both established that we actually both kind of liked this movie. But it's not a perfect film by any means. And
I love this movie as a kid. When I first watched it, it was one of my favorite films growing up, believe it or not, somewhat.
Oh, good.
I even have it on Blu-ray because I loved it so much.
Okay. But I would say one of my biggest problems is the lighting's terrible in this movie.
To be fair though, you watched it on on your computer screen and everything.
Yeah, but even on my TV screen,
because I remember seeing it in the theater and even watching it on Blu-ray. Not to sound like a Blu-ray elitist or anything like that, but I felt like the picture on a normal DVD on a computer desktop screen may have affected that.
Okay.
Because I was able, for me, my experience, I was able to see everything pretty fine actually. I never really, because I complained that like Batman vs Superman would be a movie that I considered to be shot too dark, or Man of Steel, and this I never really had that problem.
And you see, for me, I just there were scenes that were so physically dark that I couldn't really tell what the fuck was going on. So, and which is a shame because
the new, in fact, perfect example, the new Godzilla movie that just came out like a couple years ago.
The 2014 one?
That would be a perfect example of a movie that I felt was just too damn dark that you can't see anything. That's what it looked like on the computer screen that we watched it on. Just to give you an example.
Yeah, but for this, like, it's a shame that I found some of it to be too dark because some of the alien creatures in this look really freaking cool.
Yeah.
Like the Pred Alien is called, which I think is a stupid name, but I
would agree,
still
but it's still
a cool creature. Though.
Yeah, it's an awesome concept, and it is kind of unfortunate that a lot of the endings is too dark and you can't really make out everything because it's actually kind of impressive, the choreography with the people and the costumes and everything and the animatronics. It was a pretty well executed action scene for people in costumes and a little bit of blended animatronics and stuff like that. And and you got to appreciate practical effects and being on set and everything. It's, you know, that's how movies are done, man.
Well, there was some CGI in this.
Of course.
And some of the CGI did not work.
Yes, I agree, but still, some of it does fall apart, but I feel like it does blend well enough where it's not that harmful. It doesn't ruin the entire experience, unlike Alien 3.
Okay. And, oh yeah. But, some of my other problems is, like, once again, some of the characters were likable, some of them were very flat or two-dimensional, like, the one blonde-haired girl in the movie that, the character of, the girl's name was Jessie, and I think the kid's name was Ricky, who, like, had a thing for her, and,
She makes that pool scene, at least.
Okay. But no, just the character herself just kind of came off as a very two-dimensional character.
Yeah.
Ricky, you got a little more character development with his brother and stuff like that, but, that character herself, once again, she came off very two-dimensional. And
you care mostly about the characters who make it at the end, which are the...
Well, don't spoil it.
Alright.
Yeah.
I won't give it away then.
And then you also had the one woman who's from the military who comes home
with her daughter.
And you could tell they're definitely trying to make her like Ripley of this movie. Her daughter's definitely
I would say that's one of my biggest pet peeves with this film is that they're not really like interesting characters, like, kind of like what you were saying.
Yeah, the characters. And some of them are likable, like that woman. That I mentioned, she's a likable character, but she's definitely a Ripley clone.
Yeah, it's likable, yes, and that's what I kind of don't like about it, though, is that they played that up expecting the nostalgia, and I don't mind nostalgia references and stuff like that, but when it seems like you basically just ripped off the same character and just gave her a different name and a different person to embody that character, I feel... Personally, I find that lazy.
Yeah, like
I kind of wish you made this character her own instead of being like a Ripley Newt clone type of thing. You know?
Like at the end when her daughter is like, "Are the monsters gone?" It's like, okay, that's
the references were shoehorned a lot.
And then like when the one guy's like, "Get to the chopper,"
you gotta get to the chopper. It's like. Yeah, but Arnold Schwarzenegger is the only man that could say that iconically, okay?
But, once again, it's just, I don't want to say a good movie, like, I think you might have liked it a little more than I did, but I would say it's not as bad as people make it out to be, at least not in my opinion. If you hate this movie, that's fine, I can get why you hate it, but I find it to be a pretty decent movie. Flawed, very flawed, but decent.
I would second that, but
I do want to point out one scene that I thought was really freaking stupid was the scene in the beginning with the father and his son out hunting, and like when that facehugger comes at him, he shoots at it with his gun, and then the acid blood from the facehugger burns his arm off. For one, I've never seen the alien's blood do that. I guess maybe it could, but
it's a possibility. But
the scene is just so dumb because like when it burns off him, he doesn't act like...
It's not a good way to introduce the xenomorphs. I agree with you.
Yeah, and he doesn't act like a person who just got his arm burnt off.
The idea of getting chased by a facehugger in the forest, that idea. Brilliant. I find that's a really great idea, getting, because it's really small. It's like, in a way, literally getting chased by the needle in a haystack. That's how I look at it. And they just go the Strause brothers, I think they're called.
Yeah, they're the guys who directed this.
They just go it's too over the top, and it's just not it's a brilliant idea for an opening, but it's executed comically.
Yeah,
with
I would
the
say,
arm and everything. Like, I like the idea of the kid getting face-huggered and everything, but you ruin it when the father gets his arm acided off and in the most comical way possible. It's disappointing.
The film has some good ideas. It's not the most well-made film in the world, though. I mean, some of it's good, but the lighting, I had problems with the way the film was lit and stuff like that.
Now, this is a minor spoiler, but we already gave away some minor spoilers in this review already, but in the movie, at the very end, there's, it kind of implies that the, Weyland-Yutani Corporation in the Alien timeline, the reason they were able to build all those spaceships that that human characters used in the Alien timeline is because they acquired the technology from the Predators. Like, that's kind of the implication that you get at the end of this movie, which I actually kind of like that. I thought that was kind of interesting. Once again, bridging the gap between the Predator movies and then the Alien series.
It's not it's not stupid. I mean, it makes sense in my opinion. I liked it. I thought it was a good ending to end it on. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't really have any problems with it, really.
One thing that I think is interesting is about both the Alien series and the Predator series is the Predator series. In our review of the first movie, I called Predator the ultimate movie for people with testicles because it's like this hyper masculine film with like all the characters are like these macho
buff men, yeah.
But the Alien series is a very kind of a feminine series because, for one, the main character of those movies is a woman, and I feel like the themes that the Alien series touches on are very, like, female themes, like the idea of...
It's funny that you bring that up because, I don't know about the Predator side of it.
Yeah, Predator I see more as a very masculine series, and I see the Alien series as a more feminine series, so I think it's interesting how both this and the first movie and the comic books bring these two franchises together. A very, like, kind of feminine franchise along with a very masculine franchise.
If you look at, like, some of the behind the scenes and seen, like, Ridley Scott talk about the concept of Alien and everything, and even talking to, like,
H.R.
Giger, and kind of, and you see, like, some of the concept design of Giger's design of the Alien, and like the facehugger and everything, it is like sexual implications, you know? The design of the alien kind of came about from sexual designs, basically, and it's funny that the Predator is like the kind of opposite of that, where you know, kind of masculine, and on top of that, the Predator and the Alien's protagonist, Predator's lots of males and
Aliens is
mostly female,
which I think is. It's very kind of interesting how you bring these two franchises together, and I also think one of the reasons why I do think the Alien series appeals to me more than the Predator series is I feel like the Alien series gets a lot deeper into these cerebral themes that they're meant to kind of make you think, along with being action-packed movies. They're kind of there's kind of cerebral science fiction in the Alien series where they get into deeper themes. And I feel like the Predator series, as much as I love it, doesn't really get into deeper themes.
Yeah.
So overall, Aliens vs. Predator Requiem, it's a deeply flawed movie, but I got entertainment out of it. I can't say I'm gonna watch this that much after this. I mean, it's not... Both Alien vs. Predator movies are not movies I go back to revisit that often. I go back to revisit, like, the Alien movies and the Predator movies on their own, but the Aliens vs. Predator films, once again, I don't really go back to revisit these films that much. So, it's not a great movie, but truthfully, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. And it is a little better than the first one, in my opinion.
I echo mostly the same opinion as Christian. I would find if Aliens vs. Predators Requiem is on, that tends to catch my interest a little bit more than the original. The original, they're both deeply flawed, but I feel like Requiem is the better film, and I feel like you'll get more entertainment value out of Requiem than the first one. I would say comparing it, like the first one, I would compare it to like the Phantom Menace, and this Requiem would be like the Revenge of the Sith. You know, it's deeply flawed, but there are some decent moments out of it too, and it's got some, you know, interesting ideas. The first one, it's got some interesting ideas too, but it's just so boring and it's just wrong.
Yeah.
The Requiem is the superior film. I respect your opinion if you don't like it, but I applaud. I do want to say though, it's better than you think, and I don't think it deserves the hate that it gets. I think it's a decent and somewhat respectable adaptation of this concept of Alien versus
both
Predator.
franchises.
Yeah, and especially, like I said, I respect it so much because the directors really did break down both elements of what made both of them so successful and tried to implement it into this film, and that's why I respect it so much, because I do feel like I'm not only watching a pretty decent Predator movie, but I'm also getting a decent Alien movie out of it too. Both of them are done with respect, and I have to give it credit where credit's due when it comes to that. Even though it's a somewhat bad turd, at least they tried to make it respectable, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because it's an awesome concept. It deserves a better movie.
I do want to ask this question, though. Alien vs. Predator got a sequel. How come Freddy vs. Jason didn't get a sequel? Unless you count the Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash comics.
Maybe the fact that these films didn't do that good and Freddy vs. Jason didn't do as good as the studio thought, maybe? Like, I know
actually,
it did
Freddy
decently.
vs. Jason was
I heard it was
the highest
decent.
grossing Nightmare on Elm Street movie next to Nightmare 4.
Really?
Yeah, and so I don't... Like, they did a sequel to Alien vs. Predator. Why couldn't they do a sequel to Freddy vs. Jason? I want to see a sequel to Freddy vs. Jason.
I would too. I find Freddy vs. Jason pretty decent too, but...
I mean, it's not a great movie.
No.
Like, I have major problems with Freddy vs. Jason,
Yeah.
but
I would want a
guilty
sequel.
pleasure of mine.
Maybe they fell into some legal issues with the rights with Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, not Nightmare.
With both franchises,
with
maybe.
Friday the 13th, I think.
Yeah.
Because I do know Friday the 13th has had issues with the rights in the past. Like, I think the first 2 or 3 had like something, and then they got switched over to New Line Cinema. Or something like
New
that.
Line Cinema acquired the rights at Part 9. Like, it was
really?
after Part 8 when Paramount wanted nothing to do with Friday the 13th anymore.
Yeah.
And then,
so there's the Friday the 13th movies have had legal issues, and that I have a feeling that possibly could be the reason.
I love how in both this review and our review of the first Alien vs. Predator movie, somehow it leads to us talking about Freddy vs. Jason.
It's fair though. I mean,
they're both versus movies.
They're both versus movies of 2 iconic horror icons. I mean,
yeah.
It's unavoidable. And the thing is, you know, there's some decent entertainment out of these movies. You get something out of it, which is, you go in expecting it to be a complete and utter turd, but it's not really. No. It's okay. It's okay.
Alright, well, we gotta end this review off here.
Yeah.
But our next review will be Predators. So stay tuned for that review, and catch you all at a later time. Well, when that review comes on.
Adios, guys.